Hey everybody, welcome back. We thought it might be smart. Let's give a little quick recap of what's been happening thus far, because now we've got multi-generations going on here in All Air. So why don't you do that, Ricky?
All right, so Beatrice, who wants a child, has finally sort of what we would say made a deal with the devil, so to speak. And then that child was born. Yep. We jumped into a wedding, and her name is Karina. Karina's married, and of course, time has ticked on, and there's a promise to be delivered, and that promise is that if Karina has a child, it's to be given to Calixta, and Beatrice is determined for that not to happen. Yep. And as we move into this chapter, there's a lot of prophetic information. We are going to have a child, and then we're going to see how Beatrice deals with that situation. So hang on for this ride.
Yeah.
Chapter 24. Twig-sickles were adorned with colorful ribbons, and friendship baskets decorated the porches throughout all of Allaire. In addition to the usual wishes for toys and games, this year's twig-sickles were laden with extra ribbons, asking Mr. Boots to make sure the royal baby was a boy or a girl, depending on who had written the wish. Many children had been led to believe that Mr. Boots had something to do with the outcome. The baby was the subject of discussion on street corners, at dinner, and in the pubs. It seemed everyone had their own suggestion for a name. Bets were being wagered as to the actual day and time that the Castle Hill bell would ring, announcing the birth. Bakers in the Central Market couldn't keep up with the demand for baby cake trifles. Confectioners were making chocolate souvenir coins molded with various sayings or images commemorating the occasion. Near the market entrance, 2 towering glass tubes had been constructed as a fundraiser for the Grace of the Moon Orphanage. One tube was supported by a pink frame and had a sign that read, "It's a girl." The other tube was supported with a blue frame and had a sign that read, "It's a boy." Visitors would climb the steps to a platform where they could drop a croat into the tube of their choice. Some days the pink tube had more croats, and on other days the blue tube was in the lead. The likelihood that Karina would give birth during the week of Midwinter Fest added an element of excitement throughout the kingdom. Some predicted that the birth would happen on Midwinter's Day, while others were hoping the birth would take place on Midwinter's Eve. There was a prophecy in the Book of Satins that foretold of a king arriving on Midwinter's Eve under the rising of a full moon. And on the eve of the glorious feast day, the moon in its fullness will rise. It will usher the arrival of a king who will possess the light, and at whose command all darkness shall flee. Hardened hearts will sing again, and the celestial queen will shower her grace o'er all the land. Then shall it be that the forever tree will burst forth with such a perpetual radiance that the eyes of those who gaze upon her shining leaves will be opened to the truth, that good expels evil, that light repels darkness, and that love dispels hate. Second Moon Tome, chapter 8, verses 3 through 6. Shortly after sunset on Midwinter's Eve, just as the full moon broke above the horizon across the sea, the bell at Castle Hill began to ring. Many Allarians had camped outside the castle walls so that they could be there when the announcement was made. Anzans, who heard the clanging, ran to obtain a vantage point that would allow them to catch a glimpse of the tower, which was gloriously illuminated from below. The crowd cheered and celebrated as they anticipated Queen Beatrice's appearance. Their excitement was further enhanced by the chatter that was spreading about the prophetic king being born under a full moon on Midwinter's Eve. Even those who didn't follow the Book of Satins were astonished and celebrated with joyful amazement. The bell continued to ring for almost an hour while the moon slowly rose into position behind the tower. Amidst the continued cheers and clapping, there were groups who were drumming, singing, and dancing. Queen Beatrice appeared in the window of the tower and was met with cheers from below. She gazed over the throng. They filled the outer courtyard and filtered through the streets as far as she could see. She, of course, had not been the one standing in the window to announce her own daughter's birth, so she took a bit of extra time basking in the moment. She then raised both arms into the air and gestured with 2 fists, indicating that the mother and the child were healthy, strong, and doing well. Cheers once again rose to the heavens. She then reached to the windowsill and unfurled the banner. Thousands of pictos captured the historic moment. Queen Beatrice stood in the tower window. A pink banner flowed down the tower wall. A looming full moon illuminated the night sky, and a lone raven soared in circles around the tower. The celebration around Castle Hill continued throughout the night, but since it was Midwinter's Eve, most of the crowd dispersed and shifted their attentions to their own Midwinter's Day festivities. The celebration around Castle Hill continued through the night, but since it was Midwinter's Eve, most of the crowd dispersed and shifted their attentions to their own Midwinter's Day festivities. By dawn, the moon had trekked across the sky and was nestling into a position over the mountains where it would soon disappear. As the kingdom came to life, doors were opening and friendship baskets were being brought inside.
Children had learned that the new royal baby was a girl, and if they had wished for a boy, their disappointment was quickly replaced by excitement when they saw the other wishes Mr. Boots was able to fulfill.
Gracella had administered an elixir for pain and given Karina a strong tea brewed from sleeping herbs, which allowed her to rest peacefully through the night. Beatrice had stayed with Karina while Gracella was off on her mission. The goose had just returned, so she would stay with Karina while Beatrice went to face the inevitable. The queen went to her room to steady her nerves. The morning was already well advanced when Karina stirred and opened her eyes.
"There you are, princess,"
Gracella said softly, stroking Karina's ginger curls with her wing.
"You slept a long time."
"The baby?" asked Karina.
"Safe,"
said Gracella softly.
"Everything has gone just as planned."
Karina began to cry. She was angry with her mother, but at the same time, it was hard to blame her. She might have made the same desperate choice if she had been in her position. Still, her life would forever be changed. All of their lives would forever be changed because of her mother's agreement with Calixta.
"There now, princess," comforted Gracella. "Try not to cry. I have faith that what you have chosen to do is the best thing you can do, as hard as it may seem."
"I keep second-guessing everything. I wish I had known sooner," replied Karina.
"Maybe there was something else that we could have done that would have been easier than this."
Numerous times Karina had questioned her mother about the mysterious message at the wedding feast, but each time Beatrice had refused to give a direct answer, avoiding both the truth and the confrontation. It wasn't until Karina was expecting a child that Beatrice finally revealed her secret. Karina was horrified when she heard the terms of the agreement. Beatrice promised Karina that no matter what, the child would never be delivered into Calixta's hands. Last night, after Beatrice had unfurled the banner, her blood froze, and it was all she could do to keep from sinking to her knees when she saw Omen circling about the tower.
"Why are you here?"
asked Beatrice, knowing full well that Calixta had sent him. "She sent me to remind you that a promise made in blood is a promise that cannot be broken. She has made preparations, and she is coming to collect the debt that you owe her."
"When is she coming?"
"Tomorrow, Midwinter's Day before noon." Omen's magnificent wings glimmered in the moonlight as he continued soaring about the tower.
"Where am I to meet her?"
asked Beatrice. "She will find you," replied Omen. He didn't say anything else. He flew toward the moon, out of her sight, where he was eventually eclipsed by the blackness of the night. After Beatrice left Corinna in the hands of Gracella, she had thought about doubling the guards, but she knew trying to avoid Calixta was pointless. Calixta would be persistent, so she decided to get it over with. She paced her room, wondering if she should stay there or go somewhere else, although she wasn't sure where she should go. She became too impatient to stay, so she went down to the tunnel and called out, but there was no answer. She decided against going to the well. She went out to the garden and sat on a bench by the old Chester tree. She gathered a few nuts for Corvus and tucked them into her pocket. She thought about the plan that had already been set in motion. It gave her courage and fortitude. She thought about going up to the fortress wall to walk along the rampart, but then realized that it didn't matter where she was. If Calixta wanted to see her, she would find her. She stood up from the bench and took a few steps down the garden path.
Well, Queen Bee, or should I say Grandmamma, you know why I'm here.
It was Calixta. Her voice was hollow and callous. Beatrice stopped and held her breath. Calixta was sitting on the bench, dressed in red. She was holding a staff that she cradled at her neck. Her hair was now almost completely gray. Beatrice wondered how she had appeared so quickly, so silently.
Please don't, Calixta. I've known you forever, and I know you have compassion. You can't hold me to this promise. Please, I beg you.
Calixta stood up and spiked her staff onto the ground.
Bring me the baby. I really don't have time for your whimpering and groveling. But you can't ask a mother to give up her child. It's heartless.
But I'm not asking a mother to give up her child. You are. You are the one who decided the fate of your grandchild. You are the one who was willing to drown your daughter in grief. You are the one who is heartless. You made the agreement with full awareness that this day would eventually arrive, and you agreed to the terms. I'm here to collect the debt that you owe me. Beatrice was silent. She had hoped Calixta would reconsider, but it was obvious that Calixta was not going to absolve her from her part of the agreement. The plan would have to move forward.
You can't have the baby,
Beatrice said firmly. Calixta's eyes burned with seething disbelief.
Surely you must know that you cannot hide that child from me, so bring me the baby, Calixta demanded.
You can't have the baby, Beatrice repeated. She's been taken away.
What do you mean, she's been taken away?
I mean just that, said Beatrice firmly. She's gone. Gone from Anza. Gone from Allaire. She's gone from this celestial realm.
Are you telling me she's dead? I don't believe it, snapped Calixta.
Oh no, she's not dead. No, she's very much alive, but she's gone from your grasp, gone from this world. She was carried to a place of safekeeping far beyond the Tunnel of Stars. You will never get your hands on that child as long as you live.
You're lying, shouted Calixta. There's nobody within your reach that could travel that far. That feat would require the powers of a master mage, and one with wings at that, and there's no such thing.
Or so you think, Beatrice snubbed. Do you think I would have casually selected a nursemaid for Corinna? You've been so far removed for so many years that you wouldn't know that Gracella was the first goose to become a master mage, and that she has been in our service since Corinna was born. She is a master mage. She has wings. She is most certainly capable of taking our beloved princess through the Tunnel of Stars and beyond your reach. And she did. Calixta's blood boiled with anger. She reached out her arm and gripped the air. Beatrice's neck constricted, and she felt Calixta's grasp. As Calixta raised her arm, Beatrice levitated above the ground, prying at her neck, trying to break free from the invisible chokehold. Calixta spoke. "I swear this bond from head to heel, and with my blood this promise seal. May plagues and curses fall on me, if e'er unfaithful I should be." She let go of Beatrice, who fell to the ground gasping for air. Calixta stood over Beatrice and placed the butt end of her staff on her forehead. "Are any of those words familiar to you? Surely you haven't forgotten them. Did you give any thought as to what would befall the precious house of Carlington when you crossed the bridge of betrayal and broke your bond? I assure you, this will be your final betrayal. Upon you and your house I will set forth the most hideous curse imaginable. Mark my words. Try to flee, run, and hide, but you will not escape it. And with this curse, I will make sure the child is returned to me." Beatrice was paralyzed with fright. She felt Calixta's staff lift from her forehead, but then she flinched as she saw it coming back down. Her head buzzed from the blow. She saw the branches of the Chester tree gently swaying in the breeze as the sky dimmed and faded to black. So, there's a situation where now it is obvious that Beatrice is breaking a promise. She has done something with the child. Gracella has been involved in that. And Calixta is obviously angered beyond measure. This is when the thickness of our story starts getting a lot more serious, because Calixta has been betrayed. She's been patient. She's done a lot of things, but Beatrice is the one that's, of course, decided that she's not going to follow through with her promise. But it does make our plot get a bit thicker.
Oh, a lot thicker. Yeah, and now we're messing with taking a promise back with the dark arts. I don't know. That's not such a good idea there, Beatrice. But I would, what do you do? What do you do? I mean, you think you can outsmart. That's what you do. Yeah, let's see if she continues to try to play this ruse.
Right. One of the things that I would like to tell the readers that as we move the story forward, I in particular wanted to get to Calixta's lair, to her tower, and just the way things are flowing, it really needed to happen. I mean, we can imagine it being one thing, but in reality, and to make it plausible, it has to be another. So Calixta has shown up back to the garden, the same garden where Cedric saved the little bird, the same garden where Beatrice accidentally said she fell to fool her mother and father, and here we are back in this sort of same location. I will let people know that we do have a map in the book that shows Allaire and where all the various places are. So Fiddler's Cove, where the geese are, Sour Belly Sink, the city of Anza that's on the peninsula as it rises up out of the sea. All of that is there, so they'll be able to kind of get their bearings. Even the places where the tunnel leads to St. Tyndall's Satinary and where Gorva's apothecary is located. All of those things, even the Shoe and Fiddle, it's all in the map. So I hope they'll enjoy seeing that when they get the book.
Yes, indeed.
So everybody,
and onward we go.
Onward we go. Chapter 25 is coming up next.